Hello everyone, I hope you all have been doing well and staying safe. I've been really missing posting videos, so I'm gonna film a couple in a row here so I have some ready to post. And if you do want to get notified when I do post videos, you know, once or twice a month, feel free to click whatever site it's on, the bell notification, so you'll get notified. I've been back for a week, or actually maybe it's been 2 weeks now, but I turned 30, the big 3-0, and went away on a couple trips, so work was busy in between. If you want to see where I went and what that looked like, I have a couple Instagram stories posted. Of course, I'm fully vaccinated. Everyone I traveled with got tested multiple times before and after. But anyway, this is going to be a little bit of it's not a wrap-up video, it's going to be a combination of books I'm sort of in the middle of reading, books I'm excited to read, books I've hauled recently, so just sort of a little bit of a catch-up, but I'm going to do more singular reviews of books that I have read, so that'll be in a separate video. So first I'm going to talk about a couple of books I don't have physically to show because they're on my Kindle, but one I just started 2 nights ago and I'm about maybe 30 pages in and I am loving it so far. You know when you've started a book, it's been a while since I've had that feeling of just being sucked into a book really quickly, really early on in it, but that is Who is Ma Dixon by Alexandra Andrews. And this is about Florence. She's an editor and wannabe writer, and she gets tasked with helping out this famous author who's written this book that's incredibly popular, but nobody knows who the author is. She's very mysterious. So she's tasked with helping her out, and she goes away on a trip to Morocco with them. Some horrible things happen, and then I get the impression that this is going to become a little bit of maybe a darker mystery thriller. I'm not sure. I've been trying actually to really not read much about this at all in advance, but I'm really enjoying it so far. Next is a book that was recommended to me by, I think it was Books in the Freezer, and if you all don't follow their podcast, they're wonderful. They also have a really good TikTok channel. But that is Wylding by Elizabeth Hand. I'm about halfway through this one right now. And this is sort of, I think they may have even described it this way, or maybe I read this online, but they sort of described it as a horror version of Daisy Jones and the Six, even though I'm pretty sure this was published years before Daisy Jones and the Six. But it's about this British folk band, and years in the past, their manager put them in the middle of nowhere in this really old mansion and said, make your album, and then they become wildly popular. I think something horrible happens, and then the rest of it is told years later, which I'm a little bit shocked because, as a side note, I don't think I'd recommend reading the brief synopsis of this online, because I swear, maybe I'm wrong, that I'm almost halfway through this book, and something really major that I read in the Goodreads summary has not happened yet in the book, and I'm a little upset that I already know. But anyway, but if you want something mysterious, creepy, you're interested in bands, which generally I'm not, but I'm really enjoying it so far. I also wanted to talk about just a few books that are either coming out or that I purchased recently that I'm really excited about, because I have been in a little bit of a reading slump, even though in general I don't like that phrase, but I'm just trying to get myself out of it a little bit. And one book that I'm really excited about that comes out very soon is Velvet Was the Night, and I was such a big fan. You all know Mexican Gothic was one of my favorite books of 2020. I flew through that so fast, it was so addictive. And this takes place in Mexico City in the 1970s, and it's about a secretary who really likes to read some dark, you know, naughty romance novels, but she herself is maybe not experiencing a lot of that in real life. And I think it's that her neighbor, I don't have the summary here, but I think it's that her beautiful neighbor who has this very exciting life goes missing, so her and this other mysterious guy start to slowly try and find her, and then I get the impression a lot of dark and horrible things are going to happen. This feels very different than Mexican Gothic, but I just trust that I'm going to love this based on how much I love Mexican Gothic. Now we're going to get into some physical books that I picked up recently that I'm really excited about, and this is the Manningtree Witches by A.K. Blakemore. This was very kindly sent to me for review, and after reading the summary, I think I'm going to save and maybe read this one in September or October, which will make sense once you hear what it's about. But this takes place in 1643 in England, and there's this puritanical fervor going on in the town of Manningtree. The town has been very depleted of men, and I forget the name of the protagonist here, too lazy to open it up and look, but she's very kind of bored. She's kind of interested in one of the guys in town who is left, and this very mysterious man named Matthew Hopkins arrives, this very pious man, and then I get the impression that they start burning some witches. So I think this is gonna maybe have some feminist undertones, but I am just so excited. It's been a really long time since I've read a book that's, you know, takes place back in time, witch themed. So if you all have any good recommendations, they don't have to be new releases, please let me know. Then I have a couple books that I picked up from Second and Charles, my favorite bookstore, and first next is, I got this for just, what was it, $3.75, and that is The Night Sister by Jennifer McMahon. I absolutely loved The Winter People, and it's one of those things where it's a very creepy book, but it was almost kind of very cozy in the snow, and this looks like it'll be the same. But this takes place in rural Vermont, which isn't a surprise based on the other book I've read by her. Ow. If I seem like I'm in pain, I just got back from the dermatologist and they off 3 different moles that they could biopsy, which highly recommend if you're able getting your annual check. But anyway, they took one off my back and one from a body part I won't say, so it's a little hard sitting on the floor right now, but anyway. But this has to do with, I think it's 3, it starts off with children or teenagers who were playing around in a old motel. They discover something horrible, and then it jumps forward years later when they're no longer friends, and I think one of the women is standing accused of a horrible crime, and so they're kind of trying to solve the mystery and prove her innocence. But the second I heard this took place in rural Vermont, creepy motel, I was definitely all in, and her writing is so beautiful. Okay, and this next, I think I've mentioned this author before in a I want to read eventually type list, but so when I saw this book at Second and Charles for $7, I was so excited, and that is The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton. And please let me know if you've read Kate Morton before. I think it's one of you, and I can't remember who had recommended her to me in the past. She has a lot of books out, very lengthy books, but people who have read her books just seem to be, oh, see, this is exactly what I need right now, just some fairies. But people who are fans of her books seem to be very, very obsessive, and I read a ton of reviews, and a lot of people said The Forgotten Garden was their favorite by her. And our protagonist is Cassandra, who is lost, alone, and grieving over the death of her grandmother Nell. And her grandmother Nell, and this is what, the second I read this line, I thought I have to pick this up. Her grandmother in her inheritance has left Cassandra a book of dark fairy tales written by this mysterious author who disappeared in the early 20th century. I think this takes place in England. I feel like all her books do, but maybe I'm completely making that up. But it just seemed very mysterious, and I really hope I like this because one, it's very long, so it's almost 500 pages, and her books have just been hyped up so much, not to me, but just from reviews I've read. So please let me know if you've read any books by her and if you think I'll like this. And finally, even though I did mention this in my last book haul, I want to mention it again because this is the book once I finish Wylding Hall and ow, it really hurts. Once I finish Wylding Hall and once I finish, I'm sorry, I'm in pain. Have any of you had moles biopsied before? And whatever they shoot in, I have a high pain tolerance, but whatever they inject to numb, she said, I'm gonna inject it in and then this will burn. And I thought, why would it burn? But I guess the injection that numbs you, whew, okay, I completely forgot what I was saying. But this book I've mentioned before, but it's gonna be the next book I read after I finish the two books I'm reading right now, and I really want you guys to pick this up because I'm so excited for it. And it comes out in August, and this is My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. This has been described as Shirley Jackson meets Friday the 13th. If his name sounds familiar, he wrote The Only Good Indians, and it's about this town called Indian Lake that's slowly being sort of gentrified and taken over, and people start getting murdered left and right. And a local woman who's native to the area and is obsessed with horror, and she kind of has this encyclopedic knowledge of horror, starts using that knowledge to maybe try and figure out why all these horrible murders are happening. But this sounds really dark and just so much fun. Please let me know if you guys are interested in reviews of any of those books. Again, excited to be back, and I'm gonna go film another video right now. Bye guys.